Good afternoon, Coach. Mike Tober from Spectrum News in Raleigh. When you guys played a month ago, it was obviously a very different team, both in the makeup of your team missing a player and them missing a player. How different does Duke look when they have Zion in the lineup, and how different are you now that Justin's back?
It's hard to say. Obviously, we don't have evidence of it. When we played them, I think it was their second full game playing without number one. I think he's the best player in the country. I think Coach is the best coach ever in college basketball. But 2 games in, I don't know that schematically they had changed much. We played 12 games without 5. It's arguable, but I think he's really important to what we do. I know that's not the storyline today, but he has for sure made an impact in the progression of our program throughout his tenure, and we're very grateful that he's back. But it's hard to say what the difference is other than 2 teams have both added 2 really important cogs to their roster.
Sean Haggerty, the Hoya here. 3 consecutive NCAA tournament appearances for you. First of all, how proud are you of this team? And also, what makes this squad different for you guys that gives you confidence and hope?
Well, it's the first time that it's happened in 111 years at Virginia Tech. I think that it speaks to the character of our kids and how their parents raised them. I think it speaks to the work ethic of everybody in our program. It's a long way to go from 2-16 to the Sweet 16. The margin in our league, in my opinion, is as thin as any league in the country. And so you can improve and your results not necessarily show that. And so I think it's been gradual in some respects. I think it's been miraculous in many other respects. But I think the reason why we're still playing is because of who our guys are. So many people within our program that don't have a chance to be in front of the microphone. Our managers are just as important as our players. Our GAs are really important. Our student trainers are really important. So I think it's the collection of all of those people trying really hard and caring for one another, regardless of what Twitter says.
Sit down here with Adam.
Adam Zagoria, how you doing?
Zags, what's up, baby?
How you doing, buddy? I believe there are 24 Canadians in the tournament when it started, including Nikhil and RJ.
Yep.
Can you just talk a little bit about how you first came to recruit Nikhil and just what you think about the overall growth of Canadian talent?
It's exploded in my career. Jamie McNeely, who is the top assistant on my staff, was on the team as a player at University of New Orleans when I coached him. He's been with us ever since. And he was obviously an incredible piece to all of the Canadians we've signed. I know you saw Junior Cadogan play a lot of games in this building. So obviously Jamie's relationships in Canada are very important. Jamie's brother is a head coach of a university in Canada. So I'm kind of the third wheel in all of it. The one thing that I would say about Nikhil is recruited as one of the best players in the country, as he should have been. His high school coach is one of the best human beings I've ever been around. Intimidated when I'm in his presence because he has such a good spirit about him. I think the thing about Nikhil and how his mom raised him, he's very pure. He has a lot more wisdom than his age belies. And I think that he really respected what we were trying to do at Virginia Tech, and he had admiration for how hard it was going to be. And that was the attraction to him, for him. He was willing to step in to a situation that was building instead of maybe going somewhere where it had already been built. And I think that allure was really important for his experience. But collectively, relative to the country, they're, as you mentioned, they're everywhere now. And Canada's just become another place that's populated with really good players that everybody in the country is recruiting. No, sir.
We'll go to the middle of the room.
Hi, Coach. Adams Alonk with the Washington Times. Regarding your statement with about Ty Outlaw this morning, we saw that statement, very transparent. Can you just take us through the week and when you first learned of the charge and what else went into that decision-making process?
Sure. Thanks for asking. I've learned a lot over the last 48 hours. I've learned a lot about the legal process. I've learned a lot about how it became public so quickly. It's been interesting to study all of that and try to connect the dots. To give you a little bit of context, and Ty's given me permission to say this. He signed the release for me to say this. So the disturbance that occurred that led to the search warrant happened while we were in California. The search warrant was issued and executed while we were in California. We traveled all day Monday, got back Monday night. That's when we were made aware of what had transpired, and then spent the next 24 hours trying to figure out what all had happened. Whip Babcock, Angie Littlejohn, John Boleyn, everybody has been involved from the very beginning. And I think that so that we were transparent, that's why we sent out the statement. I've been amazed at some of the things that have been said about our kids and about our program. And it's been good because I've learned so much. Ty took a drug test by an outside agency yesterday before we left, and the test was negative. So maybe sometimes what scrolls across TV may not actually be the whole story, or what is published on Twitter in an ironically efficient pace may not be the whole story. And so Ty's handled everything perfect. He's been transparent, not only with me, but with all of the authorities involved. And I think it'll play itself out, and maybe there should be an apology. Maybe not. Maybe that's just me being overprotective. But I think we've handled it perfectly, and we'll let the process play itself out.
We'll stay in the middle of the room.
Coach Jimmy Patsos, NBC Washington.
Zags, what about this guy in the media?
Don't wait for that
Are
apology.
you kidding me? That gives me hope.
If you're don't wait for that apology either, by the way.
I love Patsos.
Hey, Duke is not a great defensive team, but yet they seem to get you to turn the ball over for scores. In other words, they're like a football team that might give up a lot of yards, but when they get you turned over, they go for scores.
Yes.
How do you deal with it? You get the ball out of your point guard here, Jones. I've watched them play a lot, Texas Tech, Virginia, in person. But when they turn you over, they lead to scores. What do you do about that?
Well, they're third in the nation in block shots, fourth in the nation in steals, which is only evidence to what you said. I think mathematically, Coach, what you have to do is one statistic that's really important in the last 3 years that we've played Duke. However you can, you have to have a chance to win, you have to have more field goal attempts. Because if you have more field goal attempts, that means you're not turning it over for a pick six on the other end. A block shot in our program is a turnover. So you can't have block shots, you can't have live ball turnovers. And then the next thing is, which I think is our biggest concern anytime we play a team as talented as they are, we can't give them extra possessions on the offensive glass. And so one of the things that we monitor every time we play a really good team is how many shots do they have versus how many shots do we have. Not what the score is, but just that number in and of itself speaks on a lot of different layers, as you know. But you can't give them pick 6 points, because not only does that play to them, but it means that they're winning the field goal attempt battle, if that makes sense.
We're going to go down here on our right-hand side in the corner. Okay.
Mark Berman, the Roanoke Times. Just to finish up with Ty, can you kind of clarify whose decision was it? Was it which decision to let him play? Because of the circumstances, how much of a cut and dried, easy decision did it wind up being, and how much of a relief it is for everybody that he's going to be able to play in the game?
Yeah, I think if he had mishandled anything, the decision would be different. Obviously, long before I was employed at Virginia Tech, there were appropriate protocols for this type of situation. I think we've been very transparent with that. I think that was included in the statement, and I think we followed that to a T. I think for Ty and for his mom to give me permission to say what I said in a statement, I suppose, that went nationwide, I think that speaks to the transparency not only of his family but of our program. But in defense of my boss, I think he's handled everything perfectly. And I can send you the protocol if you're interested in it. It's been written out for a long period of time.
Yep, we'll go.
But Mark Herman from Newsday in New York. Every coach comes in, and they are very complimentary of their own conference. They love it. How is the ACC just different, and how does it prepare guys for this kind of experience?
Yeah, you're right. I think every coach should say that they coach in the best league, right? That's you don't want to say you coach in the fourth best league. A few things. I used to answer this a lot from Zags when it was the Big East that I was a part of. I think the 18 games with not necessarily all mirrored opponents makes it difficult, right? Because 10 of the games we play are single games, right? And so the prep involved in those single games is arguably the same as it is with your mirror opponents. I think the depth of the roster, not the talent. Everybody has talent, but it's the depth of the talent on each roster. And then it's hard to argue this league has more Hall of Fame coaches that are still coaching, like they were inducted when I was a teenager, right? And they're still employed and winning national championships. I think the other thing, and I don't think that it's necessarily fair to coaches, but if you only looked at postseason NCAA tournament success, I think our league speaks to we've won more games in the NCAA tournaments, more national championships. I don't necessarily think that that's always fair because it's a one-and-done type situation, but it's hard to argue that this year 5 of the remaining teams are still from the league, and if you look at it in reverse, I think the success in our league kind of maybe helps add to we believe it's the best league in the country.
We got time for two more. We're going to start right down here in the corner, and then we'll go back.
Paul Woody, Richmond Times-Dispatch. Coach,
good to see you.
Nice to see you.
You guys send everybody. I haven't seen Barber yet.
He's in Louisville.
Oh, that must be where UVA is?
I think it is.
Yeah.
He misses you. I know.
I know. He and I are such close friends.
Well, aside from that, Kerry Blackshear had a very nice offensive game last time you played Duke. What did you see going into that game that you thought would enable him to do that? Will he be able to do it again? And also, you shot very well inside the three-point line last time. Was that good shot selection? Was it just a good night? What happened there?
Yeah, I think KJ has been. I think KJ, if you were to pinpoint one person or one player on why we're playing in this tournament, it would be hard to argue that his importance to our team in the 12 games that 5 didn't play, it was monumental. And I think his efficiency during those 12 games is as good as any player above 6'5" I've seen in a long, long time, whether he was on our team or not. Everything that we did during those 12 games, 99% of it was brand new. And so much of it was, I don't know if decoy is the right word, but a lot of it was a decoy prior to KJ touching the ball. And KJ was getting touches all over the court. And then once he touched it, that somewhat ignited the action that we really wanted to get to. And I think with each passing game, if you study statistically how our team did and how KJ did, with each passing game, his efficiency continued to improve. So obviously in that 12-game stretch, that was towards the end, and I think KJ was just playing at an incredibly high level. Does it translate to tomorrow? I hope that it does. And then to answer your second question on our field goal percentage from 2. We've been top 10 in the country all year long in Ken Palm offensively, and a lot of that, in my opinion, or a portion of that, is because of our efficiency inside the paint. But in that stretch when we were playing without 5, the value of the possession was almost heightened in many ways because we had to kind of grind down in how can we score the ball in different ways. And KJ was for sure the fulcrum of all of that.
We'll take our last question from over there in the right-hand side.
Coach Terrence Stroder, NBC Sports Washington.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? For Nickeil, how has he improved from his freshman year to his sophomore year since you've had him?
It's been dramatic would be the easy answer. He's the most diligent, conscientious person that I've ever coached as a player. He is in the office most days before I am. He's very regimented in how he lives. He has a very small circle of influence in his life. Very accountable in what he does academically. Competes in the classroom in the same way he competes on the floor. And I think it's just a compound effort of how he lives each day. More aware of what he puts in his body than anybody at his age that I've ever seen. Very cognizant of what he is weak at relative to his body and spends extra time in the weight room alone trying to strengthen that. Spends an inordinate amount of time in the training room, not because he's rehabbing, but it's almost like prehab, where he's trying to strengthen his hams, stretch his hip flexors. He's just very, very aware. What I would say the major difference is all of what I said has improved his body. His game has continued to improve because he works on his game at the same rate that he works on his body. But as his body has evolved and changed, it's added to his game because it's a lot harder to knock him off his line now. He's much more comfortable and stronger / explosive to gain space off the bounce. And so I think it's just the compound effort of what he's done day after day. He was a part of the first 2 summer sessions prior to his freshman year and both summer sessions heading into his sophomore year. And he was at like 43% of his degree completed in that percentage of time. And he was just on campus every day. And he was doing those same types of that same type of effort in our facility as he was in study hall. And I think it's just the compound effort of that.
Okay, Coach, you're all set. Thank you.
Thanks.